The scope of ethics for any project is determined by the people working on it. If there is no diversity in those making the decisions, then important factors could be overlooked or not even noticed to begin with. As of now, within the majority of STEM fields, there's a major disparity between the number of men entering those fields versus the number of all others entering those fields. According to a 2017 NSF report, in 2014, only a matter of about 19.8% of engineering degree seekers were women, with similar percentages of around 18% being reported for the physics and computer sciences fields. This means that the majority of engineering projects only have a couple of women working on them, if any at all. With such projects, it becomes all the more easier for those working on it to fall in the same thought patterns as those around them. This causes them to only look at a problem from one angle, which could lead to all sorts of issues, from overcomplicating a solution to ignoring the entire demographic of people affected, either by the problem itself or by the solution that they put forward. This disparity is caused by a variety of issues, the top one being that the field is considered a very masculine male field. This is in turn because it at the moment is very dominated by this. This makes it harder for women to get involved in it because they feel like an outsider and other, even in the school setting. I'm a very big awareness of this, considering when I walk into most of my classrooms, it's about 30 or 40 people with maybe one or two other women in there. I've gotten used to it, however, this makes the women who are involved in it adjust their behavior to try and fit in more with the guys and be considered one of the guys. They tend to drop more feminine behaviors and try and kind of adjust themselves so that they consider themselves more masculine and then try and fit more in with the guys. Even then, a lot of women find it hard to fit in because at a base level, they've been raised differently and their opinions and their thought processes are vastly different from those around them because the way they see the world and the lens they've grown up through, seeing the world through, is different than the men around them. If the majority is just one group and that someone tries to speak up in it and present a different fashion, majority of the time, if this is something that the others have never had to deal with, they will not consider that, or they will look at it and then decide that it is not nearly as important as the person is saying it is. We need more women who are traditionally feminine in the field because they present a different view on what is important and what should be considered within a scope of ethics than what is currently being considered. As Stonier said in her article, The Problem of Women in Engineering, the effect of thinking about engineering education in a specific way is that it narrows the focus of the problem concerning the underrepresentation of women in engineering, and therefore it limits the preferred solutions. This happens all the time with how we work to try and up the percentages of women in engineering, with the projects and solutions being usually try and promote the engineering lifestyle for women or try and give them some sort of benefit for joining the field, when it should be, instead of promoting into like there's this benefit for joining the field, showing them that they're not alone within the field and that their viewpoint and their view of the society and the world around them is just as valid and actually needed within the field of study. This also relates to those with disabilities, whether they be an invisible disability or something that anyone can see, such as needing a wheelchair or being blind. These people are also heavily underrepresented within the field of engineering, which can be even more devastating for them because if they are not involved in the discussions of what needs to be considered within the scope of ethics, then we can leave out entire demographics or populations and affect them in negative ways because we might design something that works for majority of people or the people we consider similar to ourselves, but actually harms them or makes it impossible for them to accomplish certain tasks. This happens to the women involved in engineering as well as anyone with any sort of disability or minority. Those involved in minorities also are affected in similar ways if they are not involved in the conversation, which at the moment they are not currently as involved as they should be, because they are also within the very large, very small minority of engineering majors and engineers within the world. It's slowly growing, but not nearly enough, and we need to work on actively listening to voices other than those similar to ourselves.